by technology. We talk about agriculture. Agriculture needs to be modernized and to be undertaken with the use of technology so that we are globally competitive in what we do. So, in summary, I would say that I believe this is the time for the region to sit down on a round table, facing each other, put the issues on the table, and develop strategies and collaborative effort between the public, private sector, and the wider society to go forward together to make the region more robust. I think the one thing that has come out of this is that we've seen that in the developing world, when times like this come, everybody focuses on themselves and you're left on your own. That's the big lesson that I think has come out of COVID-19. As a region, we must work towards self-sufficiency and capacity and a very modern approach to the way we run the region. And Singapore is a good example for us to follow. Thank you.
Dr. Van Charles.
Thank you very much, Wesley. Fellow panelists, I think COVID-19 has directed us to the need to see health as an integral aspect of development. Development is driven by human capital, and that's where health becomes very, very critical. I think it has shown us the fragility of the health systems. In many cases, the public health aspects of the health system is weak, and we need to strengthen it and ensure that the strength is sustained in going forward. I think also the aspect of generating new knowledge with challenges that we have and ensuring that our laboratories are constantly up to scratch and that research, medical research, is supported by governments, by the private sector in terms of this space that we're talking about also. Water and sanitation. Water is a critical component of what we have to do with COVID-19. But I think the water utilities have been on the sideline. And we need to understand how these utilities are functioning and the inputs required to keep water accessible across the board for all communities, some of the disadvantaged communities, etc., and the challenges that these utilities will face. We didn't touch on the role of energy, but I think as you're getting back to the issue of normalcy, I think the region has to look at energy and collectively decide on how best we can have cheaper energy to support the private sector in retooling and manufacturing, etc. Now, I just want to underscore the importance and the understanding that whenever we're attempting to get back to normalcy, this does not mean that quarantine is going to go away and isolation is going to go away. We have to keep the surveillance system tight to ensure that we can reduce transmission to zero. So even as people come in, if the tourist industry were to open, people have got to be checked regularly. We've got to have the laboratories up to scratch to give results in 24 hours. And if people need to work out with the industry for isolation or quarantine, those things are in place. Because if we don't maintain these systems, then you can see another wave that will put us in a worse condition. But I think it is critical for us to ensure that our health systems, and we should be monitoring what is happening with the shift of resources from other parts of the health system to deal with COVID and ensure that those other pathologies are being addressed. And thank you once again, Wesley, for having me on the panel.
Hi, Silly.
Laverne? Yes, you're
yes, thank you for having me on the panel. I just want to give some perspectives once again, being in America and of course being born in Trinidad and being a Trini. I've never in my life seen going to the grocery store, no hand sanitizer, no wipes, certain food items not available. In Miami, you go in the store, you can't get chicken. You can't get certain things. Never in my life would I expect to see this in a place like the United States. The hospitals, overcrowded, lack of equipment, ventilators, that type of thing. The reason I say this is if a country like America is suffering, and indeed it is suffering right now, millions on unemployment, millions. If a country like America is suffering, countries in the Caribbean, of course, will feel it harder if they're hit hard by the virus. So again, I encourage everybody to connect with business leaders, citizens, government leaders to form task force to try to get through this transition, the new norm. They've said here it's not going to go back to normal. They're not going to have big stadiums full of people and those things that we've been accustomed to. So medical tourism would probably be a very good option. I don't know what the situation is on the islands, but people will be traveling not for leisure, but for medical, those who have money, because you cannot get proper medical care in a lot of hospitals in the U.S. right now. Again, once again, food and agriculture, things that Americans take for granted that in the Caribbean we know about, food, those type of things. So getting back to agriculture, that type of thing. And once again, I cannot emphasize enough technology, technology, technology. The companies that are doing well in the United States are companies like Zoom, the very platform that we're on, a technology company. The stocks are up. Amazon stocks are up. Those type of companies that use artificial intelligence, that have indoctrinated it into their transportation, their import-export system, that can do things quickly. In the Caribbean, we have a tendency to do things slowly. At this point in time, we have to make decisions and make them quickly. So in the media, I will try my best to get the word out. Again, my role is to get information out and also connect the right people together. If the region can band together, set aside their differences between islands, band together, they will have more strength in getting the policies and regulations they need for import-export throughout the world. So I appreciate being on the panel and wish all of you good health.
Thank you. Eldon?
Yeah. Thank you, Wesley. Thank you, panel. This is actually a wake-up call, and it's an opportunity for the tourism industry and the government to kind of reset, restart. And I kind of challenge the government and urge the government to pay some serious attention to ensuring the appropriate balancing of the all-inclusives and the EP properties. And reason being that with the all-inclusive, but a lot of the industries are in the villages and the surrounding areas. It kills the community tourism, actually. So there must be a good balance. As I said, Barbados is a good model. When I was in Portugal, in the Algarve, there was a good model. And then the oversupply of bedrooms. I mean, you have to just have the right balance for that also. And as I said, Bermuda is a good model. You cannot build a hotel room unless one goes out of existence. So they need to have proper control, and the government needs to get involved in this, and not to look at it from the investor point of view, but from the people's point of view, how they're going to benefit actually. Thank you.
Okay, Dr. Slater.
Okay, thank you. Let me again, on behalf of the Secretary General, thank the organizers for involving us in this discussion. I think it was very productive, and we were happy to participate. I have listened carefully I have tried to respond to some of the questions, and in my sum up, there are a few still out there that I'll try to address quickly. So let us, as our leaders have been doing, look at this challenge, major though it is, as an opportunity for us to move our region forward. We have heard the discussions, and I agree with the points raised, especially Ms. McGee raised that we need to step up to the game and do things more efficiently, more quickly, and better. And yes, so some persons ask, for example, food security. What are we doing? What are our leaders doing to help with that? I believe, and this has been discussed, that our leaders will have to find some of address some of the challenges that we had. Transport, for example. Intra-regional transport is expensive and not simple. And the private sector may have to get involved to see how we can make this work. The private sector, in terms of manufacturing of food, to use our regional primary products and food industry to better respond to the needs of our region. Our citizens will have to adjust probably their eating behavior and consuming more of what we produce. And all of us have to work together to encourage that. Our manufacturers, I think, need to consider the opportunities that might be open to develop products that add value. Quite often we see a lot of our private sector involved mainly in trading, buying and selling at a percentage without creating new value. Yes, you provide a service, but probably you need to look a little more at creating new indigenous value of our products in the region. The governments will have to address issues of restrictions of trade. There are still some, even things like sanitary certification of the movement of agricultural products. We heard that in the US, there are some scarcities of things, very things that we import from them, meats, poultry, etc. We need to be aware that in the next few months that may apply here, but we have some lead time. And maybe our private sector need to pay focus on that and try to start responding early enough to address some of those potential areas. The CSME, the Caribbean Single Market and Economy, will have to become more efficient in that respect. Entrepreneurship needs to be accelerated, and it is you in the private sector on which we depend for this. The governments will need to better facilitate those, but really something that we all have to work on together. And for the tourism industry, I think we have to look at our intra-regional tourism in the short term. I can tell you that there are many of our member states where intra-regional tourism is a significant part of the market, and it will address some of the issues that I think Mr. Bremner raised about the issues of all-inclusive versus the community-type tourism. And I think that our inter-regional tourism will particularly be good to address those issues. So there are a lot of things that we can discuss and we should be discussing. I say we just need to work more collaboratively, and certainly our business, private sector leaders, you know who you have to talk to. Our policy makers must work hand in hand with you, and all of us in our own way need to see what better we can do to improve the status of our economies and to adjust to what is called the new norm. I am an optimist, and I hope we all are. And we have had challenges, historical challenges like this before. We are a resilient people, but we need to work better and faster. Over. Thank you.
Well, thank you.